the second Sunday of this season of Lent. I have a couple of quotes today that we're going to be sharing. The reason birds fly and we can't is simply that they have perfect faith. For to have faith is to have wings. I thought that was an interesting quote from James Matthew. And also the second quote that you can see up on the screen. There are two lasting bequests we can give our children. One is roots and the other is wings. Yeah, and it's a couple of quotes about wings today. So welcome to all of you. And we're going to begin by singing the first two verses of Tree of Life and Awesome Mystery. And you'll find it in your multicolored hymn book, number 121. And the words will be up on the screen, and we'll share the first two verses. So on this Sunday morning, for a brief space of time, we leave behind the world of home and of work and of whatever takes us away from this holy time. The world where we have our lists of things to do, activities to participate in, tasks to complete. We come here this morning seeking something else. We come here seeking a shift from the ordinary to the sacred, from doing to being. I once more invite you just to close your eyes for a moment. Let go of your list. Recall that it's the season of Lent. Remember the parable of the sower. The sower throws a seed, and where it lands determines if it will grow or not. Think of it this way. Think of the season of Lent as the sower, the time when seeds of faith are thrown with special intensity, as a time when God calls to us and to you in a low, urgent voice. So listen. Jesus is being drawn to Jerusalem. Where is God calling you to? What is God calling you to do? Think about this in this moment of silence. So now, as we extinguish our second light, we acknowledge the darkness and the pain of injury done to our earth and to its ecosystems. O loving God, as we journey through this holy season of Lent, may we be open to your presence. Give us the strength to make the changes that are needed in our lives and the courage to take on the work of transforming the world. Amen. So folks, once again, welcome, and for our visitors this morning, welcome to you. And this also is going to be our annual congregational meeting, but I'm going to invite Nancy to come forward just for a moment and to share some messages with us.
This is the last announcement for the annual general meeting that will be held immediately after church this afternoon. I would like everyone to grab a coffee and a goodie and bring it back with you so we can get the meeting started as soon as possible afterwards. I also have another announcement. Cody gave us a wonderful concert last weekend, but we have a case of 3 missing black coats. 2 have been found, but we are still missing one, and it's so funny that we have all these coats. So, but Grace Churchill is one without the coat, and she has the other one here. So if you hear of anybody that's missing a black coat, it is here. And I've also put out on the bullet, or in the narthex, a table of our lost and found things that will be there for 2 weeks, and then they'll disappear. Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy. Alrighty. Land acknowledgement this morning. As settlers on this land, we are called to live in right relationship with the peoples of the traditional lands of the Treaty 7 and Métis nations. May we be attentive to this relationship day by day. Opening hymn, I'll invite you to stand if you're able. We sing Immortal, Invisible, God Only Wise, in number 264 in Voices United. Let's stand if you're able.
Immortal, invisible God.
I chose that song because of the annual meeting. I thought, well, let's sing that old classical song. There you go. It's opening call to worship. So welcome into this Lenten journey. Welcome upon this road which leads somewhere. And it is through worship together where we share our plans for this, our faith journey. It is in this place where we hear the urgings of our God to make a new world, to make room for the outsider. Well, today we continue to move inward as this journey parallels the journey of Jesus towards his surrender, towards his moments of deepest vocation, towards the self raised against the sky, arms outstretched in the agony of love. So it is upon this parallel road where each of us comes in contact with our inner sight, with our center of our being, and who we are as followers of Christ. So call us on the journey out into blessing. Fold us into living blessing. And call us on the journey out into faithing. Fold us into living faith. Call us on the journey out into questing. So fold us into living questions. So call us out and call us in to meet holy you. We now turn our hearts and minds and voices to you in prayer, and we share in this prayer together. O Holy One, Lent may mean something to some of us, and to others it's just another day or another period in the liturgical year. Regardless of our thoughts on this, there are always periods in our lives where we have desert experiences, and we search for the ways of how to journey out of this place. This is why we come together on Sunday mornings, so that our collective thoughts may be held out in prayer. Often when we find ourselves in a cul-de-sac or at crossroads, not knowing which road to go on, or a roundabout where we circle endlessly. Journeying with others, we find the way as we go on with purpose, guided by your divine Spirit towards a common goal. May this season of Lent be for each of us a time of finding our way out of desert places into a newness of life. May we always be dependent on each other's gifts and sharing in each other's hopes. Amen. So were you there on that day that love was born? Were you there when pride and greed died a painful death? Were you there when hope's fragile tendrils pushed their way through the hardened cracks? Were you there when death buried life and spring came again? Well, I was there, and hopefully you were there, for we're all forgiven people. Amen. So this passage, by the way, of Genesis is the one where God says to Abram, Go and journey to a whole new place. And the passage says that Abram was 75 years old. And we know that Abram goes along with his wife Sarai and his brother Lot. And as the story unfolds, it seems that everything will flow naturally from one act of obedience. I wonder how often we end up in a spiral of negative events simply because we have not paid attention to an invitation from our Creator or our beckoner who beckons us continually. This passage read alongside of the others this morning is the reason why my message today is entitled, Using Your Time to Make a Life Worth Living. And I'll speak to this a bit later, but now I'm going to invite Peggy to come up and share with us this first passage. Peggy.
Good morning. Before I start, I'd just like to give thanks to my grade 1 teacher. Jean McCaskill was her name. She taught me to read. What a wonderful gift that has been throughout my life, to be able to read. And so I'm going to begin by reading from Genesis 12, verses 1 to 4a. Now the Lord said to Abraham, "Go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land that I will show you. I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great, so that you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and the one who curses you I will curse, and in you and all the families of the earth shall be blessed." So Abram went as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he departed from Haran.
Yeah. Perfect. He was 75 years old.
I know, Michael.
Good turning at 75 years old. So this psalm I chose was an option this morning, and I couldn't resist sharing it. And what you're going to hear is a paraphrased version out of Leslie Brandt's book, Psalms Now. I think it speaks to us in a whole different way. So just take a listen to this Psalm 121. Where should I look for help in my need? To majestic mountain peaks that probe the skies, or to giants of industry that hem in our cities? To satellites that circle our world, or to computers that store up our knowledge? The answer to my problems and the fulfillment of my needs must come from God, who created skies and mountains and humankind to dwell in their midst. Our Creator God knows our every desire, whose watchful eye is upon us night and day. We can make no move without God's knowledge. God's concern for all of us is constant. God's love for all of us is eternal. And thus the Lord will keep you, shielding you from the forces of evil, as a shade tree shields you from the rays of the blazing sun. And God does care for you, and will fight for you against the enemies of your soul. Whether you be coming or going, God knows the course you take, and yes, will always go before you. That's Psalm 121. So the Romans passage is next. In Paul's letter here to the Roman Christian congregation, he's wrestling with one of the issues which all the disciples wrestle with, and maybe some of us too. What is faith? What does it mean to be faithful? Is faith the same as belief? Is it the same as trust? Or what if we're doing the wrong thing? Maybe grace is a gift that makes it possible for us to lean into faith without even knowing whether we're doing it right. Maybe even faith comes to us by grace. Well, one thing for sure, when God asks us to move, and we do. We act, and the word faith becomes the verb. It becomes the action. And Abram going to another land. So I'm going to invite Peggy Jackson once more to come and share with us these two readings in Romans. Peggy.
The example of Abraham. Romans 4, 1 to 5, and 13 to 17. What then are we to say was gained by Abraham, our ancestor, according to the flesh? For if Abraham was justified by works, he has something to boast about, but not before God. For what does the Scripture say? Abraham believed God, and it was reckoned to him as righteousness. Now to one who works, wages are not reckoned as a gift, but as something due. But to one who without work trusts him who justifies the ungodly, such faith is reckoned as righteousness. For the promise that he would inherit the world did not come to Abraham or to his descendants through the law, but through the righteousness of faith. If it is the adherents of the law who are to be the heirs, faith is null, and the promise is void. For the law brings wrath, but where there is no law, neither is there violation. For this reason, it depends on faith, in order that the promise may rest on grace and be guaranteed to all his descendants, not only to the adherents of the law, but also to those who share the faith of Abraham. For he is the father of us all, as it was written, I have made you the father of many nations in the presence of God, in whom he believed, who gives life to the dead and calls into existence the things that do not exist.
Amen. Thanks, Peggy. Yeah, Romans passage. So the hymn of illumination, we're going to sing this through 4 times, and I'm going to have the first time we're going to sing it together, and the second time it's going to be the women only, and the third time the men, and the fourth time we'll sing it all together again. And we'll have maybe Cody play it through once for us so we know how it goes. The words are quite simple up on the screen, but if you want to turn to number 96 in your more voices, by all means. So let me play once. John 3, starting at the first verse. You know, so often we turn our noses up to the Pharisees and the Sadducees. And we sometimes or quite often only see them as the bad guys. Well, I would almost put Nicodemus or Nicodemus as one of my secret patron saints. He leaves the comfort of his own home to seek out Jesus and to confront him on some of the teachings which he's heard. He's willing to question and to wrestle with the old beliefs with which he lives out day in and day out. Nicodemus is dancing on the edge of heresy. Are we willing sometimes to dance on the edge of heresy? Because that is, after all, where Jesus stood in relation to his own heritage. And encased in this passage is one verse which you'll truly recognize, and which may be the last words that you may hear at the Good Friday service. So I'm going to share with you this passage from John. Now there was a Pharisee named Nicodemus, a leader of the Jews. He came to Jesus by night and said to him, "Rabbi, we know that you are a teacher who has come from God. For no one can do these signs that you do apart from the presence of God." Jesus answered him, "Very truly I tell you, no one can see the kingdom of God without being born from above." Nicodemus said to him, "How can anyone be born after having grown old? Can one enter a second time into the mother's womb and be born?" Jesus answered, "Very truly I tell you, no one can enter the kingdom of God without being born of water and spirit. What is born of the flesh is flesh, and what is born of the spirit is spirit. Do not be astonished that I said to you, you must be born from above. The wind blows where it chooses, and you hear the sound of it, but you do not know where it comes from or where it goes. So it is with everyone who is born of the Spirit." So Nicodemus said to him, "How can these things be?" Jesus answered him, "Are you a teacher of Israel, and yet you do not understand these things? So very truly I tell you, we speak of what we know and testify to what we have seen, yet you do not receive our testimony. If I have told you about earthly things and you do not believe, how can you believe if I tell you about heavenly things? No one has ascended into heaven except the one who descended from heaven, the Son of Man. And just as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, so must the Son of Man be lifted up, that whoever believes in him may have eternal life. For God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, so that everyone who believes in him may not perish, but may have eternal life. So indeed, God did not send the Son into the world to condemn the world, but in order that the world might be saved through him." This is part of the good news. One thing that we all share, and one thing that some of us have plenty of, is time. At least that's some of us, because many of us don't seem to have enough time for all the things which we put ourselves into. But nonetheless, we all have time. We all have time. And it's how we use this time and how time uses us which can make our lives worth living. Modern thought is to take charge of your life and transform yourself into someone worth loving, and to use your time to make a life worth living. You can have meaning if you choose to have meaning. Your life is what you make it. In fact, you are the savior of your soul. Well, it may sound well and good, but these statements fall short of how to make your life worth living. And maybe the gospel passage this morning points towards some answers on how to make our lives really worth living. Nicodemus was a curious fellow. He had heard about the signs that Jesus was doing, like turning water into wine and cleansing the temple. Nicodemus was a Pharisee, so he was a teacher of the Torah, the law and the word. He had watched as many flock to Jesus to hear him teach, to watch and see if he would do another sign, maybe something bigger, hoping perhaps that Jesus' next miracle would be done for them. So many were believing in Jesus because of these signs. So Nicodemus was feeling attracted to him also. He wanted to know more about this interesting healer that he heard so much about. Nicodemus wanted to see for himself. So he went to visit. He went to Jesus at night, hoping he could show him the light of day, maybe. Nicodemus came to Jesus at night and said, "Rabbi, we know that you are a teacher come from God. For no one can do these things that you do apart from the presence of God." So implied in that statement that I read back then was it's a challenge. What are you up to? Is really the underlying question in that. What are you up to? Help me to see what you're doing. And Jesus responds, no one can see the kingdom of God without being born from above. Nicodemus just doesn't get it at all. That's actually understandable because the word Jesus uses can actually mean both from above and born again. Jesus meant one thing, and Nicodemus heard the other one. And you see, I think Nicodemus, being a powerful person and an intelligent person, has come to Jesus asking, what do I, as a competent, intelligent person, need to do to get in on whatever it is that you're pushing? Possibly. What is your plan, Jesus? So Nicodemus thinks that all he has got to do is to find out Jesus' program, get with it, master it, and then he'll be saved. That seems to be what he's trying to do. But we need to go back to our question once again. How do we use our time to make a life worth living? Do you think for a moment that Nicodemus would put his whole life aside and follow in the way? Do you think that he would be born again? Or start a whole new life looking after the outcasts of society as Jesus was doing? I highly doubt it, because it's not an easy road. And being a Pharisee, one of high status, why would he want to throw that prestige away? But he's still a saint in my books because he dared to use his time to see where this gift of life worth living was, and if there was any way in which he could tap into it. We have to give him some credit. And that night, Jesus told Nicodemus that the one with whom you speak, the one who invokes mysteries like birth and wind, this one is sent from God to save. Mighty big words. Your ultimate status with God is not your spiritual achievement. It's God's gracious gift. If you're in doubt about that, take heart, as Jesus says. The wind blows where it will. So the God who gave you your first birth shall, as gift, birth you again and again until you are the creature whom God intends you to be. So when the wind begins to blow, or when you feel a new emerging from the old, in those surprising moments, when you proceed down your accustomed ruts, just busy looking after yourself, and there is, as if out of nowhere, light or a voice or a summons, and we know that we've been cornered, we could mutter to ourselves, so it was you all along. And you've used your time to finally make your life worth living. And to end my little chit-chat this morning, words from William Longstaff. You may recognize him in the song, "Take time to be holy. Speak to God often. Abide in God always and seek nourishment from the words. Make friends of God's children. and help those who are weak. And don't forget anything, for it's God's blessing that you seek. Amen. So our offering this morning, I'm going to ask someone to bring it forward if possible. Maybe somebody that's back there would be nice. We have enjoyed many gifts since the last time we were here, O God. Help us to remember them now and to make this offering to you in joy and gratitude, for you are the giver of every good and perfect gift. And we are but children learning to imitate your generosity. So in a little while, I'm going to have that come forward. We got to sing a song first. I'm looking at my bulletin going, skipped it. We're going to sing Psalm 121, Unto the Hills. Now you find the number 842. Sorry, Cecilia. 842. Stand if you will. Well, now I would invite you to be seated and you can have the offering brought forward. I find that the bulletin was really shrunk down, so everything is really close together if you look at it. Trying to keep it to 4 pages. It worked. Come forward. We share in these words together. Bless these gifts which we offer. Bless we who offer them. And bless those who will be touched in turn. So may these gifts, blessings, be pleasing in your sight, O God. Amen. Thank you. All you are weary and carrying heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Come Unto Me by Larry Nickel. Beautiful song. Sacrament of Holy Communion. May God be with us as we share in this holy meal together. God is surely here among us. Let us open our hearts to God. Open our hearts to God and also to one another. Let us give thanks to God. It is right to give our thanks and our praise. As we come to this table, let us all be reminded that it's not the table of this community of faith, nor is it the table of United Church of Canada. This is God's table. Everyone is welcome at this table any time. So like any banquet table, the Lord's table nourishes us with food that satisfies our physical and our spiritual needs. There is no distinction between the two. Let us eat and drink together for our strengthening in the faith and for the sake of the world. As Jesus said, come all of you, come eat and drink in my name. Draw strength from me, and then go into the world and share that strength with others. That we share in these words together. Holy, holy, holy Lord, power of life and of love, heaven and earth are full of your glory. Hosanna through the ages, and blessed is the one who comes to bring justice to the earth. Let us remember that vision of God's reign shown to us in Jesus at table. He shared food with followers and with friends and saints and sinners and crowds of thousands upon the hill. He also shared food with a couple of close friends. So this morning, together with our Christian sisters and brothers around the world, we again hear the story that's been handed down to us from generation to generation. On the night that he was betrayed, Jesus took bread, broke it, had it blessed, and said to those present, take, eat. This is my body broken for you. In the same manner, he took a cup, he poured the wine. He raised the cup up and had it blessed and said to those present, drink from this cup in remembrance of me. It's a cup of peace. We share in the words of the prayer together. Come, Holy Spirit, move among us this day. May your energy draw us closer together with our brothers and sisters in Christ around the world to live your peace and your compassion. Come, Holy Spirit, move among us this day. Move among all people of this world with your love and your peace. Amen. Well, folks, these are the gifts from God for you, the people of God. So come, for all is ready. And I would invite my servers to come forward now, and we're sharing this together. You folks on this side come this way. You folks inside go that way, and the choir will do the thing a bit later. Nancy, you're going to be second, okay? This way. Well, final prayer of the morning. We're sharing this together. O God of the snow and the ice, and God of the thawing fields, we bow before you now in the changing of the seasons and confess to changing seasons in our own lives. We may appear stable to others, but we know the fluctuations that are always taking place in our inner selves. First we doubt, then we have faith. We care about something, and then we lose interest. We're strong, and then we're weak. We are determined, and then too laid back. Sometimes it is all we can do to bear our own faithlessness. But you, O God, are always the same with us, strong, gentle, long-suffering, forbearing, and love. Teach us to wait on you and be like you, to find in your nature what we lack in our own, and finding it, to become imitators of you. Let us be followers of Christ, whose vision of your kingdom kept him always on course and always devoted to the welfare of others. Help us to care less about ourselves and our reputations and what we have in the world, and more about the ones who are in pain, lost in their own deserts of their lives. And visit us always in our changing seasons with a sense of your steadfastness, O God, our rock, that we may continually praise you. And now let us share to you the prayer and song which has been taught to us from generations past, the Lord's Prayer. I think I'll save the commissioning for after our annual congregational meeting. So that'll be a good time to put the commissioning together. So let us sing together a closing hymn before we go into the congregational meeting. And you'll have an opportunity to go into the upper hall, grab a cup of coffee, a cookie or two, and spend a few minutes, and then we'll be back after that. I'd say 5-10 minutes to put it together. Let us sing Praise God for This Holy Ground, number 42 in your More Voices hymn book.